You can't be serious, Dad, I said, my voice shaking as I stood across from him. His polished oak desk a barrier between us. My father leaned back in his chair, cool as ever, exhaling a slow breath that carried the faint scent of his cigar. This isn't up for debate, Laura, he said, placing the cigar in its ashtray like he'd already closed the book on me. My hands balled into fists, but I held my ground. So that's it. You'd rather hand everything to Ethan, who doesn't even care, than give me a shot just because I'm a woman. His face didn't flicker. This firm is Ethan's too. Run, Laura, he said, his tone unyielding. You've done well with your studies, and you'll make a fine wife someday, but this isn't your place. My name's Laura Bennett. I'm 26, a Yale-educated lawyer, and the daughter of James Bennett, head of Bennett and Partners, a powerhouse law firm in Houston. My whole life, I've fought to prove myself, acing exams, winning debates, graduating with honors, all to follow in my father's footsteps. But in that moment, surrounded by the smell of leather and old money, I realized my dreams didn't matter to him. I was just his daughter, meant to marry well and step aside. That day, I walked away from my family to find my own path. And what followed was a battle of betrayal, grit, and redemption that tested everything I believed about myself. Stick with me. This story of fighting to be seen for who I am, not what I was born, will pull you in. And if you've ever been underestimated, you'll feel every step of this journey. I locked eyes with him, my voice steadier now. Ethan doesn't care about this firm, Dad. He's reckless, barely past junior college, and hasn't a clue how to run a business. You know that. My father sighed, rubbing his forehead like I was the one being difficult. Ethan will learn. He's my son, Laura. It's his right to lead Bennett and Partners. And you, he paused, his tone softening just a touch. You have other paths. A life without the pressure of a firm. I'm looking out for you. A bitter laugh escaped me. Looking out for me? You're holding me back. I've worked harder than anyone, harder than Ethan, and you know it. But you won't give me a chance because you're too set in your old ways to see what I can do. His face hardened, and I knew I'd crossed a line. That's enough, Laura, he snapped. We're done. I stormed out, my heels clicking sharply on the marble floor of our family's sprawling estate. In the sitting room, my mother was arranging roses in a crystal vase, her movements delicate, but her face weary. She glanced up as I passed. Laura, what's wrong? She asked softly. I stopped, frustration and desperation bubbling over. He won't let me work at the firm, I said, my voice cracking. He's giving it all to Ethan and expects me to just accept it. She sighed, her hands pausing. Your father has his ways, she said hesitantly. Maybe it's best not to push him, dear. He means well. I stared, stunned. Means? Well, Mom, he's throwing away everything I've worked for because I'm a woman. How can you defend that? She looked down, the weight of years spent biting her tongue clear in her slumped shoulders. I just don't want you to get hurt, Laura, she murmured. Sometimes it's easier to let things be. Her words hit like a wall, and I realized I was alone in this fight. That night, I lay awake, my father's words looping in my head. All those years, sleepless nights studying case law, outshining my peers at Yale, sacrificing friendships to chase the Bennett name wasted. He thought my future was a fancy wedding, not a corner office. The idea made my skin crawl. By morning, I had made up my mind. I was halfway through packing a suitcase when my bedroom door creaked open. My mother stood there, pale and confused. Laura, what are you doing? Before I could answer, my father appeared, his face etched with irritation. What's this? He demanded, stepping inside. Where do you think you're going? Ethan sauntered in last, still in his pajamas, leaning against the doorframe with a smirk. Off on a trip, sis, I snapped the suitcase shut and faced them, standing tall. I'm leaving, I said, voice steady. Since I'm not wanted at the firm and don't fit into this family's plans, I'm going to find a place where I do. My father's face darkened and my mother clutched her necklace, eyes wide. Laura, don't do this, she pleaded. We can talk it out. I shook my head. There's nothing to talk about. You've made your priorities clear. My father stepped closer, his voice cold. Don't be absurd, Laura. This is your home. Where would you go? For what? To prove a point. I met his gaze, unflinching. Yes, Dad. To prove I'm worth more than being sidelined for someone who hasn't earned a thing. You said I have no place in your firm, so I'll find one that values me. Ethan chuckled, crossing his arms. You're blowing this out of proportion, Laura. Throwing a fit because Dad's not handing you the keys to the castle. His smugness pushed me over the edge. This isn't a fit, Ethan, I snapped. It's me taking charge of my life, something you've never had to do. Because everything's been given to you. My father raised a hand, silencing us. Enough. He said sharply, Laura, you're not leaving. You belong here. I grabbed my suitcase, shaking my head. No, Dad. I belong where I'm respected, and that's not here. I walked past them, the suitcase wheels humming as I descended the grand staircase. My mother followed, her voice trembling. Laura, please don't go. We can fix this as a family. I paused at the bottom, looking at her, the woman who'd spent her life keeping the peace at her own expense. Mom, I love you, I said, softly, but I can't keep hoping things will change if I stay. They won't. My father stood at the top of the stairs, silent, his expression unreadable. Ethan lounged against the railing, unbothered, like my leaving was just a minor inconvenience. I opened the front door and turned back one last time. When you're ready to see me as more than a daughter who needs to marry well, you know where I'll be, I said, voice firm. Then I stepped outside, the crisp Houston air hitting my face as the door clicked shut. For the first time, I felt free. Within days, I landed an interview at one of Houston's top law firms. They didn't care about my last name, just my Yale degree and my fire. Walking into that office, I wasn't James Bennett's daughter. I was Laura Bennett, lawyer, ready to prove herself. By the end of the week, they offered me a job, and I finally felt like I belonged somewhere for my skills, not my lineage. The work was tough but exhilarating. My boss, a no-nonsense woman named Diane Carter, saw my potential and pushed me to grow. Within months, I was tackling major cases, earning my colleagues' respect. It wasn't the life I'd planned as a kid, dreaming of running Bennett and Partners, but it was mine, and that made it better. Professionally, I was soaring, but the nights were heavy. Cutting ties with my family hurt, no matter how right it felt. In quiet moments coming home to my empty apartment after a long day, the ache would creep in. I missed my mother's soft presence, even if she never fought for me. I even missed Ethan's chaotic energy, as maddening as he was. But the deepest wound was knowing my father let me go without a word. Months passed, and I threw myself into work. The cases were intense, often keeping me at the office past midnight, but I thrived. Diane started giving me bigger cases, and soon I was known as a rising star. I grew personally to learning to trust my choices without seeking my father's approval. Everyone felt like proof I was more than they'd ever seen. One afternoon, Diane called me into her office, a sleek space that reflected her sharp efficiency. She motioned for me to sit, her green eyes studying me. Laura, I've got a case for you, she said, her tone serious. It's high profile, complex, and it'll put you front and center. I leaned forward, intrigued. What's the case? She paused, then said, we're representing a client suing Bennett and Partners for mishandling a contract. It's a big deal, and it's getting attention. My stomach dropped. You want me to go up against my father's firm? I asked, keeping my voice even. Diane nodded. I know it's personal, Laura, but that's why you're perfect for it. You know how they operate, and you're one of our best. You can win this. I took a deep breath. Diane, this isn't just a case. It's my family. She leaned forward, her voice firm but kind. I get it, but this is your chance to show them and everyone what you're made of. This could define your career. I sat back, the weight of it sinking in. I need to think about it, I said quietly. She nodded. Take until tomorrow. We need to move fast, and I want you on this. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced, torn between the chance to prove myself and the risk of severing what little connection remained with my family. Taking the case meant facing my father, the man who'd dismissed me, and Ethan, who'd coasted on privilege. It meant challenging the legacy that had both lifted and limited me. But it also meant showing the world I could stand alone, even if it burned the last bridge home. For 2 days, I wrestled with it, replaying my father's rejection, my mother's silence, Ethan's smirk. I thought of the girl who dreamed of leading Bennett and Partners, and the woman I'd become, carving her own path. By the second morning, I knew my answer. I walked into Diane's office, shoulders squared. I'll do it, I said. She smiled. I knew you would. Let's get to work. The first day in court was electric with tension. I walked in, briefcase in hand, my client at my side, my heels echoing on the polished floor. Then I saw them, my father and Ethan at the defense table. Their eyes locked on me, shock rippling across their faces. My father's jaw tightened, and Ethan's mouth dropped. Before H. Over several sessions, it was clear I was outmatching them. Ethan's arguments fell apart under my rebuttals, and my preparation left him grasping. My father tried to step in, but even he couldn't undo Ethan's mistakes. By the 4th session, their side offered a settlement. I saw the frustration in my father's face as their lawyer approached us with terms. After some negotiation, we settled, heavily in my client's favor. As we signed the papers, I caught my father's glance, defeated, maybe regretful. Ethan stared at the table, avoiding me. I said nothing. My job was done. Normally, I lingered to talk with my client or opposing counsel, a nod to professionalism. But my father and Ethan grabbed their things and left without a word, no handshake, no acknowledgement. It hurt more than I expected. I'd hoped for some sign they saw my worth, but their silence left a hollow ache. I brushed it off, focusing on my client. I'd won, and that was enough. That evening, the firm buzzed with celebration. Diane met me at the door, grinning. You were flawless, Laura, she said, handing me a glass of champagne. That settlement's a huge win. My client stopped by, shaking my hand. You were incredible. We couldn't have done this without you. I smiled, surrounded by people who valued me for my work. This victory was mine, not tied to my father's name. Later, alone in my apartment, the city lights glowing through my window, I sipped wine and replayed the day. My father's tense face, Ethan's avoidance, it lingered. I had spent years chasing my father's respect, dreaming of proving I belonged at Bennett and Partners. Now, after beating them, I wasn't sure what I'd gained. Did they see me? Or was I just a reminder of their loss? The questions hung heavy as I stared at the Houston skyline, wondering if my family ties could ever mend. The next morning, Diane, caught me as I entered the office. "Laura, your father's here," she said, her tone cautious. "He's in your office." My heart skipped, but I kept my face neutral. "Thanks," I said, heading down the hall. There he was, James Bennett, sitting across from my desk, hands clasped. He looked up as I entered, his face softer than I'd ever seen. "Laura," he said quietly. I closed the door, wary. "Dad, what are you doing here?" He stood, smoothing his jacket, a nervous gesture I'd never seen. "I came to talk," he said, voice steady but earnest. "To say things I should have said before." I set my bag down, folding my arms. "I'm listening." He paused, glancing out the window, then back at me. "You were brilliant in court, Laura. I've seen the best lawyers in this city, and you outshone them all, prepared, fierce, unstoppable. You showed everyone who the better lawyer was." His words hit hard, but I stayed guarded, waiting. "I've spent my life thinking legacy meant passing the firm to a son," he continued, regret lacing his voice. "I thought I was right, pushing Ethan to lead, even when I knew he wasn't ready. But I was wrong. You've worked harder than anyone, Laura. You've earned it all, and I failed you." I blinked, caught off guard. This was the man who dismissed me, and now he was admitting his mistake. "Why now?" I asked, voice cautious. "After everything, why say this now?" He met my eyes, raw honesty in his gaze. "Because I saw what you're capable of. I've been a fool. Ethan's not ready, maybe he never will be. But you've proven you can lead, not just succeed." He stepped closer, voice almost pleading. "Laura, I'm asking you to come back. Take your place at Bennett and Partners. The firm needs you. I need you." The words I'd once dreamed of hung between us, but they didn't feel like I'd expected. "What about Ethan?" I asked. His face tightened. "He'll stay, but in a role that fits him. This is about you, Laura, giving you what you've earned." I took a deep breath, his offer heavy. "I need time to think," I said firmly. "This isn't a quick decision. Too much has happened." He nodded, understanding. "Take as long as you need." I just had to say it. He moved to the door, then turned back. "Laura, I've rarely said this, but I'm proud of you. In that courtroom, you were better than I ever was, better than I could have dreamed." His voice softened, and he gave a small, hesitant smile before leaving. I sat at my desk, his words echoing, "Better than I ever was." For years, I'd fought for his respect, to prove I was more than his daughter. Now, hearing it, I felt pride not just for his words, but for myself. I had stood my ground, built my own path, and shown the world what I could do. Now, late at night, I lie awake, staring at the ceiling. My father's offer is everything I once wanted: a chance to lead Bennett and Partners, to shape the legacy I dreamed of as a girl. But going back means stepping into a world that once rejected me, working alongside Ethan, whose entitlement still stings, and navigating old wounds. Staying here, though, has its own limits. This firm has been my home, but it's not my legacy. If I return, I could redefine the Bennett name on my terms, proving it belongs to me as much as anyone. The choice feels impossible, its weight keeping me up. That day in my father's office, when he told me I didn't belong, I thought I'd lost my place forever. But fighting for my worth showed me I could build my own, and maybe, just maybe, claim the one I was born to. I haven't decided yet, but whatever I choose, I know I'm more than they ever saw, and that's a legacy I've already won.